Hello everyone. How are you all doing? I hope you all are fine and enjoying these cozy winters. So this is the second session of Android Study Jams in collaboration with 10 GDSEs. Now that you are familiar with the basics of Kotlin and Android, we are conducting Android Study Jams session 2 for you also that you all can learn more advanced concepts in Kotlin. Before starting, I would like to call Srishti to conduct a fun quiz. Over to you, Srishti.
So hey guys, what's up? So I think we all have like you all have already done our first session, and so today I was wondering that we all can have a little quiz. So as for the quiz, I was wondering let's do some basics about Kotlin. So the way of doing the quiz is this way. So let's play a little Kahoot game. So those who don't know how to play the Kahoot, just simply go to the website kahoot.in and add the pin 7908592. So I would like request the organizers to share the Kahoot link in the chat box so that the students can join using that if they're unable to join, or just simply go to kahoot.in and enter this game pin.
We will wait for 5 minutes for everyone to join. So the game pin is also in the chat. Do join the Kahoot quiz, everyone. Thank you.
It seems we already have our players starting. So it's Hardik, Khushi, Aniruddha, Ritik, and let's see who else. Tanish, Komal.
You all can write your own name in the nickname section.
Anuj, Mansi. Guys, इस गेम को थोड़ा और इंटरेस्टिंग बनाते हैं. Start entering your like self in your own characters or any name that you want, like not necessary. So like I would like whenever I join a Kahoot quiz, since I'm a very big Marvel fan, so I take up some other names. So even you guys can take up too. No hard and fast rule. It's just for a little fun. So we have Shubham, Sandy, Ayush, Harvey Specter. Nice. Bazinga. Oh, Babu Bhaiya. Awesome. P. अभी P कौन है? Peter Parker. Nice. कांता भाई. Awesome. कांता भाई कोई और खबर है नहीं? राहुल. Oreo. I love Oreos. Hello, Peter. I still remember. Guys, start joining. I wouldn't wait for much क्योंकि हम लोग को गेम स्टार्ट भी करना है. So hop in fast. Pihu, such a cute name. King, awesome. We have a king in here. Is there any queen? Please, I guess a game should also have a queen if we already have a king. Freshie. Okay, you're a freshie then. Salman. You should rather give it as Salman. Waking. Aryan Anand. Okay. Shreya.
We have Babu Bhaiya and Raju both in the game. How nice.
Exactly. How exactly? Naruto. Any Sasuke fans? Please, Sasuke also join the game too. Garvit. It seems like we really have many interesting characters. Guys, just keep giving. I really want more. Just keep changing. If you want, you can change your names and come too. Not an issue. Any Dr. Octopus wants to join in? Interested? Since we already have 2 Peter Parkers. I guess the Parker guy is same now. I think so. If I've guessed it correct. Vicky Kaushal. अच्छा, कैसी रही आपकी शादी? हमें तो इनवाइट भी नहीं किया. गोकू. Shreyak. Okay. Awesome. नहीं, अरे मोदी जी पधार रहे हैं, सब लोग तालियां बजाओ. Srishti, oh God, who just? Thank you, whoever mentioned my name. Thank you for playing from my side. Okay, so we have a Hinata too. Yeah, Naruto, Hinata, nice. They're my favorite. Katrina, हाँ अगर विकी है तो कटरीना को तो आना ही पड़ेगा. ग्रीन गॉब्लिन, yes. Captain India. You know, we actually should have
Srishti,
a
you
captain.
must have watched No Way Home also, right? Since you are a big Marvel fan.
Yes, I have watched it today and I cried 3 times during the entire movie. I'm not going to give any spoilers.
Okay, so no spoilers now.
I won't give any spoilers. Okay,
Oh my
give a
God.
card.
People are now joining with our names.
Joining
Thank
with
you so
our
much.
names. Kageyama Tobio. Okay, I don't recognize this character, but maybe if it's an anime character, please do spam the chat with the name of the anime, since I am an anime fan too. So I would love to watch that one. Scavengers. Okay. Scavengers. Okay. यार एवेंजर ही लिखते हैं ना, क्यों स्कीवेंजर्स? कोई एवेंजर का नाम से भी आ जाओ. No spoilers, please. Okay, sure. I'm not giving any spoilers. Chill. I'm not like my other friends. सब तो 16 से WhatsApp का स्टेटस ही देकर आ रहे हैं. Kittu. अरे वाह. Okay, I know one Kittu. I'd have a guess that maybe it's that person. And okay, guys, no spoilers. Why दे रहे हो तुम लोग? कितने गंदे हैं सब. Tobey Maguire. I think people are not coming up with a spoiler. Paneer Senpai. Oh, that's nice. All the unique names. Imdokta. Okay. Muzan Kibitsuji. Okay. It seems we are coming up with many interesting names right now. So guys, only I'll give more 2 minutes and then we'll start off with the game. So it's now 7:14. We'll start at 7:15 then. Muzan Kibutsuji. Tim Bhaiya. All forget Peter. अरे बाप रे. Oh God. जो भी दे रहा है ना ये सब, यार बड़ा मार खाओगे बाद में. जिन लोग नहीं देखा अभी तक मूवी, ये मत दो ऐसा. Katrina. Okay, so we have 2 Katrina and 1 क्या है उसको हैवी अभी इसका नाम है, I always
Vicky
forget.
Kaushal.
Vicky Kaushal. We have Vicky Kaushal. Android guy, Thor. Okay. Vicky Kaushal, thank you for coming back.
Vicky Kaushal just right. Nice.
We had to give you Vicky Kaushal. Sarcasm. अरे वाह. Okay यार, Japanese नाम आप दे रहे हो मुझे तो. Venom. Awesome. Yes, Venom. अरे यार मुझे स्पॉइलर देने का मन तो करे, लेकिन मैं अच्छे इंसान हूँ, मैं नहीं देने वाली.
I think it's 7:15. Yeah, let's start.
Yeah, we should then start. And I just locked the game. And let's start. So it's Christmas time and Android Study Jam 2. So let's 3, 2, and 1. Quiz. So first question. Kotlin is developed by which software company? देखो Kotlin Android dance भी कर रहे तुम लोगों के लिए, तुम लोग cheer करने के लिए. तो सही नाम देना. Time is running. Okay, so how many? Okay, thank God many of you have. Okay, many even you've Googled. Yeah, Google developers के लिए इसका ये मतलब नहीं कि Google ही वो कर रहा है. Next question then. So, who is on the top? Okay, we have Tanish on the top with the right answer. Good job, Tanish. And we have Sarcasm, Raju, Sanuj, Vicky Kaushal. Next question. Who has built Instagram? यार जितने भी Instagram users हैं आ जाओ तुम्हारी बारी है सही आंसर देना. आंसर तो बहुत सारे आ ही गए हैं. वाह.
I think people are just using Instagram and they don't know who is
Do
the
you not know the
developer of that. Yeah,
name?
actually. Let's see.
Okay. So
10
back
people
to
got
the-
it correct.
Yeah, again, nice, very good. Now let's see. Sarcasm. Very nice sarcasm. Thank you. Okay, so which file extension is used to save Kotlin files? इतना कोड तो किया है Kotlin का, लास्ट डे का भी सेशन अटेंड किया है, तो थोड़ा तो इसका तो आइडिया होगा ही. अरे वाह, वेरी गुड. लेकिन बहुत लोगों ने अरे यार Kotlin जावा कैसे हो
It's
सकता है?
surprising. Yeah, it's actually surprising that
Surprising.
nine people
Actually
got
voted
dot Java.
Java. अरे Kotlin जावा कैसे हो सकता है यार? Okay, so sarcasm is still at the top. Tanish top से अब नीचे आ गया, लेकिन अभी सेकंड में है. अरे यार राजू
Vicky
भैया
Kaushal
थोड़ा
is again
ऊपर
in the
जाओ.
game.
अरे राजू भैया थोड़ा तो ऊपर जाओ.
Which
Okay,
food
so
delivery
which
app
food
is
delivery
more
app is more
popular?
popular? यार सबसे ज्यादा कहाँ से ऑर्डर करते हो? सब दे दो.
मैं तो Swiggy यूज करती हूँ, to be honest.
मैं
What
use
about
ही
you,
नहीं करती.
Srishti? You
I
don't
don't
order
know.
food
I
online?
don't like मेरा 2-3 बार इतना धोखा दे दिया है ना स्विगी जोमेटो ने, उसमें मेरा ट्रस्ट इश्यूज आ गया है उनमें. ओके, सो स्विगी गुड. इस अब लगता है
Yeah,
कि
Swiggy.
एक्चुअली स्विगी पॉपुलर है कि सब लोग बहुत यूज करते हैं. अरे राजू भी टॉप में आ रहा है. अरे राजू भैया क्रॉस कर दो सरकाजम को. आप तो इसके माहिर हो. So okay, how to make a multi-line comment on Kotlin? देखते हैं इसमें कितना का आता है. अच्छा, इसमें थोड़ा इक्वल इक्वल हो गया है.
8
So
people
यार
got it correct.
जिन लोगों को नहीं पता ये है जो 7 और ये जो 6 लोग हैं. गुड. अब कौन है? अबे यार राजू दोबारा से तनिष आ गया.
Sarcasm is unbeatable.
Sarcasm is literally unbeatable. So which of the following companies are using Kotlin? और दिन ब दिन पैसे आ ही जा रहे हैं. अरे जो जो कंपनीज Kotlin यूज करते हैं ना वो लोग अमीर बन चुके हैं दिन के दिन. तो सोच लो क्या क्या हो सकता है. LS, coming to one of the best programming languages, Kotlin is used by all of these companies. तो जिन लोगों ने सोचा कि अच्छा बहुत लोगों ने नेटफ्लिक्स का नाम आ गया और कुछ लोगों ने गूगल, 2 लोगों ने पिंटरेस्ट. भाई साहब ऑल ऑफ द अबव है. Kotlin मामूली चीज नहीं है. Kotlin सबको आता है, सबको ही लेना चाहता है. अरे सरकाजम, तुम तो बड़े ऊपर हो या तुम बड़े ऊपर हो. Who founded WhatsApp? यार डेली कोई ऐसा बंदा तो है नहीं जो व्हाट्सएप यूज करता नहीं है. तो बोल दो कि कौन यू फाउंडेड है, वरना अगर
No. People are just using WhatsApp. They don't know who is the developer of WhatsApp. Let's see how many people got it correct.
Even I also
Even I don't know, actually. Even I don't know. I'm just using it.
will use it. Okay, so
Okay,
actually,
6 people.
none of them. अरे भगवान यार, इन दोनों इन बंदों का नाम याद रखो. जैन कॉम, ब्रायन एक्टन की वजह से तुम लोग दुनिया से बात कर पा रहे हो व्हाट्सएप यूज करके. Okay, so Raju Bhaiya is again leading on the top, but sarcasm is still there. Beat करना मुश्किल है. अब बोलो किस किस को Kotlin easy रखता है? Is it true or false? Now you'll be like, what? So बोल दो Kotlin is easy, true or false? पता सबका रिएक्शन है, व्हाट, Kotlin इजी है, हाँ? थैंक यू। देखो,
At least 16 people find it easy.
it's
So
true
that's
and 8
nice.
people were like false. Guys, false नहीं है, ये true ही है। सच्ची Kotlin easy है, करके देखोगे बहुत easily हो जाता है। जो लोग beginner friend like beginners होते हैं सबके लिए बहुत easy है ना। सेकेंड लास्ट क्वेश्चन, यार अगर किसी ने मिसमैच देखा, ये आनी चाहिए कि डिम्पल और सी टीम ने कौन से प्रोग्रामिंग लैंग्वेज यूज की थी। एंड थैंक्स विद माय आइडिया, ये GIF इज माय मोस्ट फेवरेट, लाइक द कोल्ड कॉफी। गॉड, सोच लो अगर किसी ने रियल लाइफ में लिटरली आकर ऐसा बोला और तुम्हें सच्ची कोल्ड कॉफी उसके ऊपर दे दी यार, ओह शिट। अच्छा कि ज्यादा, ओ ज्यादा, हे भगवान, नहीं यार, Kotlin नहीं, वो जावा थी मैक्सिमम। उसमें तो इवन ट्रेलर में भी तो वो कहती है ना कि जावा, they even did the like code on the Java itself. Okay, so we have Peter Parker growing right now. Awesome. अब तो देखो समझ जाओ, which
This
dating
is the
app is
fun one
most
actually. This is the
downloaded in
fun
the
one.
world. देखते हैं कि कितने लोग कौन से ज्यादा यूज करते हैं।
Which dating
देखो
app
भाई
is the
साहब, ये
most
सब
downloaded?
क्विज है। एक बात है ना कि देखो भाई साहब, IS वाइज पढ़ाई लिखाई करो, IS वाइज बनो, ये सब मत जाओ। वाह, जो सबसे ज्यादा यूज करते हैं सब वही दे, वेरी गुड। Now let's see the winners. So at the third position we have Peter. Then we have Raju Bhaiya and ta-da! Sarcasm. Yay! Congratulations,
Nice.
Sarcasm. Peter
We
Parker.
also have runners up. Runners up.
गाइस प्लीज एक बार ना अपना पूरा नाम एक बार अच्छी तरह से प्लीज दे देना कि कौन क्या है, लाइक क्योंकि हमें तो नहीं पता। So that was all about the quiz. Thank you, Akansha.
Thank you, Srishti. So now I would like to call our esteemed speaker, Mr. Pankaj Rai. Mr. Pankaj Rai is a GDE for Firebase and Android. He is an experienced Android developer and he has worked on various domains, including augmented reality, machine learning, and created a wrapper over the Firebase SDK called Firebase to cut down the code base to a single line of code. Apart from app development, he regularly posts tutorial videos on Android, Kotlin, and Firebase on his YouTube channel, All Techies. And he is also a well known speaker at technical events. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Akansha, and thank you for inviting me today for this session. Let me start presenting my screen first.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, so hey everyone, I'm Pankaj Rai. I'm GD for Android and Firebase. And in today's session, I'm going to cover the navigation, coroutine, and connectivity. These are a few of the basic important things when you create Android applications. So if you are new to app development or if you are experienced app developer, for both of them, these three components are something which is very important. So before I start about talking navigation, coroutines, or connectivity, how many of you are freshers here who are in the first year of engineering?
I think most of us are second years and third years joining the session today.
Okay. And so next to this is why you guys want to learn Android app development. So what's the motivation behind this? So you guys can write it down in a comment. I can see the comments. Okay, I can see one fresher, Garvit Joshi. Okay, no answers. Just you want to learn Android app development because of the study jam. Then Android app development is not something which is quite limited to a particular community. It's for the global community. And the moment you have an access to app development, then you'll reach to a very large global audience. So if you have your ideas, which you want to take to the world, then Android app development is certainly a good platform for reaching to the worldwide users. Because Play Store doesn't differentiate about these are Android developers, US developers. It's purely up to you when you upload your app on the Play Store on which regions you want to target or which countries you are targeting. Okay, so now let me start with this today's session. So let me talk about navigation first. Well, navigation is really an important part for the app. Navigation is about, say, if you are in a particular screen and then you want to move to any other screen, and that's something called as navigation. We have activities and fragment. Activity is nothing but the components which you see as soon as the app is launched, right? So if you know about activities and fragment, then you might be aware about this, that activity is something which is the Android component, and fragment is something which is useful to have a multi-panel UI. So if you want to create UI where you have two separate kind of screens, then fragment is good to go. And navigation can be done for both of them, for activities and fragment. If you have literally no experience in Android, then instead of fragment, focus on activity first. And if you have a bit of experience, what is activity, how to create UI with activity, then move ahead with the fragments. So when you do navigation, that means moving from one screen to any other screen. It's also important to maintain the backstack. Now, what is that backstack? So backstack is, say for example, you're moving from screen A to B. Now, if user hit the device back button, then it should again take you back to the screen A. Just like, for example, if you're using WhatsApp, the moment you launch the app, you see all your chats. And when you click on a particular person chat, then it opens a chat window dedicated for that particular person. But then if you hit the back button, then it should take you back to the place where you see all the person information. In a similar fashion, when you also create an application, it's extremely important to maintain the backstack. And the good thing is that you need not to do anything for this. Android will automatically take care of these things. So among the activity and fragment, let me start with the activity first. And then I'll come on the fragment, because both are very important part for creating apps. So when I talk about the activity navigation, then launch mode plays a very important role. There are various sections through which app is divided. And you see this launch mode often defined in the manifest. But you can also define it as a flag programmatically. But most often you see this defined in the manifest. Now, what are these launch mode and why do these are important? Let's check this out. So for example, if you have the first mode as a standard launch mode, and what you're seeing here is like ABC, think of it as a screen. So it's a screen A, then screen B, screen C, and then next to the screen A. So when your launch mode is standard, then in that case, say you have activity A, B, and then C. Now from the activity C, if you are trying to launch activity A once again, which you have already seen, then with the standard mode, it doesn't matter whether you have seen the activity or not, it will again relaunch that activity as a fresh activity and will add to the backstack. Now, if you hit the back button from the last A, it will go to activity B, activity C, then activity B, and then once again you see activity A. That's because it's a standard launch mode, which is the default one. But if you do not want this behavior, then you can add single top. Single top is like, say for example, you have activity A, B, C, And now from B, and now you want to launch B, then because it is not on the top, the current visible activity is activity C. From activity C, you're trying to launch activity B, which was already seen before. So it will launch a new instance of activity B. So that means if you have activity A, from activity A, you have clicked on a button, you have launched activity B. Now from that activity, again, you have launched activity C. Now from C, if you're again launching B, then instead of going back to the activity B, which was already seen before, now it will create a new instance of it. But because our mode is single top, the name suggests if the activity is already visible, then do not create a new instance of it. So now have a other way around. You have activity A, B, and then C. Now from activity C, if you are trying to launch activity C once again, then it will not allow that because that activity C is already been visible. And if it is visible, then it's not going to launch once again. That's the single top launch mode. Okay, now let's see about the single task. Single task is, say you have again activity A, B, C. And now from activity C, you want to launch activity A. Earlier with the standard variant and the single top, we have seen that if it's a standard variant, then it will launch a new instance of activity A. With single top, if A was not the last visible activity, then again it creates a new instance of it. But now with a single task, say on a button click of activity C, I'm trying to launch activity A once again. Now it will not create new instance for me. Rather, it will go back to the activity A once again. Now this is same as if you correlate with WhatsApp. Say for example, when you open your home screen, that home screen is say the activity A. You click on a particular chat, that's activity B. And then from a chat, you click on the settings, you go on activity C. Then you perform some action like click OK or cancel. And the moment you click OK, it again takes you back to the home page of WhatsApp, instead of again taking back to the person with whom you're chatting. This is what single task is. If you take to a particular activity instance, which is already there in the stack, then it will remove all the above one and will take you back to the first one or to the place where you have called that particular stack. Like for example, it's the first one because we have launched activity A once again. And finally, single instance. And that's the last one. Single instance is like, instead of having one stack, earlier, whatever I've shown, they are the stacks. So as you open an activity, it puts in the stack. The stack is automatically maintained by Android OS. So you need not to do anything with that. But now say, for example, if you launch an activity with a single task, then in that case, say A, B, and C, they were launched with some other launch mode. Now D is launched with a single instance launch mode. So because D is launched with single instance launch mode, then rather than attaching to the stack which was already running before, it creates a new stack and add D as a new entry in that particular stack. So this is what the single instance is. Now, do you have any questions on this launch mode? We have standard, single top, single task, and single instance. If there is no question on this, then we can move on to fragment. Because this launch mode is something which will come across while you create Android application, because all serves different purpose. So any questions on this launch modes? If you have it, then you can write it down in the comment section. No questions, then let's move on to the fragment. But before I move to the fragment, let me show an instance how you can start an activity. So for starting an activity, you create intent. Through intent, we are launching an activity. And this takes two parameters. One is the current instance of the activity. With this, you can say that this is my particular activity, comma, what activity I want to go to. Here, for example, it is product activity. So intent, this comma product activity says that from this particular activity, I want to go to the product activity class. And then with put extras, you can also add some sort of bundle, the information, extra information, which can be carried forward from this particular activity to the next activity. And you can place content like the boolean, integer, string, those sort of things. You can put it as a bundle object. And then finally, when you call start activity, it just launch that particular activity. Okay, now let me talk about the fragment. So fragment, as I said, it is extremely useful when you are creating a multi-panel UI. Nowadays, we are seeing lots of devices which supports foldable devices, large screen device. Now, this is extremely useful when you go ahead with those kind of design pattern, because eventually on a large screen, you want to cover the screen. If you just have a single activity with single kind of UI, then it's all about, like, say, for example, you have a list, then a particular list is covering from the start of the screen to the end of the screen. This kind of UI is really good when it's a small mobile phone, because on mobile phone, we have a very limited size of screen. Mostly we see around 5.5, 6-inch screen. But when it goes for the Chrome OS, tablets, then you see a very large screen. There, the UI should change. And fragment plays a very important role there. So let's see how we can do navigation with fragment using navigation component. Well, navigation component is really, really helpful if you want to have a single activity and all fragment architecture. Earlier, it was not that easy to manage the backstack and other things with the fragment. But with navigation library, Jetpack Navigation, this is extremely simple. There are three navigation components: navigation graph, nav host, and nav controller. We'll see all of them. So nav graph, well, I've shown earlier about the activities, how you move from activity A to activity B. You have an intent, then you call start activity, pass on the intent, and then it launches that particular activity. Now, there is another way for fragment also to launch, which is an older approach. And now whatever I'm showing, that is with the navigation Jetpack library. What it does is that it gives you a UI where you can drag drop all your fragments, and then you also decide which fragment should take to which other fragment. And that you just do with drag and drop. So the arrows which you are seeing on this UI panel itself, I can say that if I'm in this particular fragment, then on a click of button, which fragment I'm going to. All those things is now defined directly as a navigation graph. So navigation graph is extremely handy and useful. Let's see this closely. Say, for example, you have the fragment main, which is the first fragment. And now from this fragment, I can go to 3 different fragments, as I have 3 different buttons too. That means I have a place through that I could navigate from this particular fragment to other fragments too. So through navigation graph, I just give this information that I can go to this particular fragments. But this is not the end. We again need to use the navigation controller to take from one screen to another screen. But this graph is all about to say that from this particular fragment, what all navigations are possible. It could either be a single navigation or multiple navigation, as you could see for the first one. From the first fragment, we can navigate to 3 different fragments. And then for the middle one, you could see that we can only navigate to a single fragment. And the arrows which you're seeing, When you click on those arrows, then you see few of the important informations like the animation. So if you launch your fragment from fragment A to B, then should it follow the default animation or you have your own animations defined? Those things will come automatically as soon as you click on the arrow. And then you have transitions, arguments, pop behavior, and if you see the launch modes. This launch mode is helpful if you are doing with the activities. And the argument. So these are important if you want to pass some sort of information from fragment A to B. So if you have a source fragment and a destination fragment, and you want to pass some information like the integer, string, float, double, boolean, all those sort of information, then those sort of information can be passed on through argument. So it's extremely simple. You define the ID, which is created by default for you, transition, if you are interested, add it, otherwise leave it as none, and then pop behavior. This pop behavior is quite useful because say, for example, if you are in a gaming application, user has navigated to the game over screen. Now, if user press the device back button, that user should be taken back to the home screen, not to the place where user has launched before, because user has finished the game. So that's why this pop behavior is helpful for us. Here we can define that what should happen. Should it take user to the last screen or to the first screen without managing the stack? So if you say this pop up to particular fragment inclusive to true, then it will take user to that particular fragment and will remove all the existing one in the backstack. Whatever I'm saying, all these things is available in the code lab, and also it is there in the Android Studio. So the latest one is Android Studio Arctic Fox. If you install that Android Studio, go for the navigation graph. The moment you create a fragment, drag and drop here, you see all those things there. Okay, now let me talk about the nav host. So earlier, navigation graph was the one component. Now the next one is nav host. So I've talked about the fragment. That fragment is helpful for multi-panel UI, and not just multi-panel UI. If you have a single functionalities with respect to screen which you want to share across the various part of the app, then again fragment is useful in those scenarios. Like in this case, at the bottom we have the menu options, home and some other option. So when user clicks on that, we show that particular option. If user clicks on another menu option, we show something else. So that option at the bottom is something which is called as the bottom navigation bar. So this bottom bar gives you an option of adding some sort of title or the icon, just title, and the combination of both of them. As you click on it, you see a fragment associated with that. If you are using Gmail app, then you might see this with the Gmail. At the bottom, you have the bottom navigation. And when you click on particular icon, it just changes the UI about that particular bottom navigation. The above piece of code, the above piece of UI which you are seeing, which gets changed, they are nothing but the fragments. So nav host is a place which you can think as a container. It's just a container which can launch fragment. That's the place where you see fragment. Like the pink color which you are seeing here, that pink color is a part of nav host. So when user want to launch a particular fragment, then goes to the next fragment, then that's the pink color part which you see that will get changed automatically by default. This is all done because of the navigation graph which you have created, and then using the nav controller to move to a particular screen to any other screen. And by the way, if you're trying to use it the bottom navigation, then we have a default control for that. So it does support this, where you need not have to specify the click events for this. It automatically understands and then launch a particular fragment. And the final component. The final component is nav controller. So navigation, as I said, there are three components: graph, host, and then controller. Say if you're in a particular fragment and you want to take user to the next fragment based on the graph which you have created earlier. For that, you just need to call a method find nav controller. On that, you can call navigate. Then the ID, which is created by default when you drag and drop the fragments in the graph, you need to specify that ID here. This is done without safe arg, which is not sort of a recommended approach. The recommended one is if you could do with the safe args, because this drastically reduces the margin of error. Here, based on your link which you establish using those arrows, it automatically create a class for you. And then you just need to call next action, that's it. Like for example, here you could see we have the home fragment directions. Now home fragment direction is a class which is by default created as soon as you link a fragment to a particular fragment. And then in the next action, whatever arguments which you want to pass, you can pass on there. So find nav controller dot navigate. This is something which is very fixed. This is not going to change. What is going to change is if you use save arg, you use a class. On that class, you call next action. If you do not use save arg, then directly pass the ID. This ID is automatically generated for you. So you need to create this as you drag drop link fragment 1 to fragment 2. And when you click on the arrow, you see the ID in the right panel. So that same ID, you can put it here too. So this was all about the navigation. Now let me talk about the coroutines. So do
So-
you have questions regarding this point?
We have one question. Vijay wants to know about the single and multiple mode. If you can repeat that topic, just a bit of it.
Which one?
The single and multiple mode.
Single
We
and
talked
multiple.
in previous slides before navigation.
This one, launch modes.
Yes.
So launch mode standard is all about you have a activity, and as soon as you try to open any other activity, it just put it in the stack. That means it doesn't maintain that whether the activity was visible earlier or not. Every time it creates a new instance of it. This kind of approach is really not helpful if you have a dedicated piece of UI where you want user to go back as they take some action. For example, you have a activity A, B, and C. Now you have a button in the activity C. On a click of button, you want your user again go back to the activity A, which was the starting phase, the home screen. But if this launch mode is standard and you say start activity as A, then instead of again going back to the home screen, it is rather creating a new home screen once again. So standard is all about as you call, you get a new instance. There is no repetition involved here, no recalling stuff too. Single top is all about if that particular activity is already visible and you try to launch that activity once again, then it will not let it to happen. Say for the first one, the stack which you are seeing, you have activity A, B, and C. Now from activity C on a button click, you want to launch activity B, which is already there in the stack because user has seen that activity. But still it will create a new instance of it. Because as the launch mode suggests, it is single top. And activity C was on the top, not activity B. And that's the reason it creates a new instance of activity B. But on the other side, I was in activity C, and on a button click, I'm saying again, I want to launch activity C. Then this is something which it will not allow to happen. Where you see this kind of UI stuff is when you click on notification. In the notification, you also specify that which activity should open as user click on notification. So say, for example, you are in a home screen, you got a notification, and on a click on notification, you're again launching the home screen. Now this gives a bit of broken experience to the user that they're in a particular home screen already, but after clicking on notification, it is again relaunching the same screen which user was earlier. So to avoid this, we have a single top launch mode, which says that if the home screen has already been visible, you got a notification. That notification says that whenever user clicks on it, launch the home screen. But as user is already in the launch of a home screen, then it will ignore that call. It will not launch the home screen once again. So the same thing is happening here too. From the activity C, if on a button click or on certain action, I try to launch activity C once again, then it will not allow to do this as the mode is single top. Single task is about, say you have a stack. You have launched activity A first, then B, then C. Now you are in a particular activity which is C, and again on a button click, now this time you want to launch activity A. Earlier we have seen that they were launching activity as a fresh instance. But now with single task, it means that just maintain a single backstack. If that activity is not seen before, create a new instance of it. And if it is seen already, then launch that particular activity once again. So here in this case, on a button click of say in the activity C, I'm launching activity A. Now it will not create a new instance of A anymore. It will launch the activity A once again. And whatever activity which you have seen before A, that means activity B and C, they will be automatically removed from the stack. So it's like instead of hitting back, 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 now you can avoid those back, back, back click to go back to the home screen. You did some action, you want to go back to the home screen, and whatever navigation was done before, you want to remove all of them. Then single task is good for that. So from C, if I go back to A, it will automatically remove B and C for me and launch activity A by default. Single instance is about creating new stack. So stack is the place where you put activities, because if you hit the device back button, it should follow the same order in which this activity is put in the stack. So say for example, activity A, B, and C, they are launched with some other launch mode apart from single instance. And then activity D is launched with a single instance launch mode. Now it creates a new stack for itself. And this stack is dedicated for this because it has launched with a single instance. Now, if I try to launch activity A, B, C, and D, all with a single instance launch mode, then I'm going to have a 4 stack, the 4 back stack, where everyone is going to have a single activity, because I have specified that always I want, while creating new activity, create a new stack for me too. So that's what single instance is. So this was the launch mode. Now, any questions on launch mode or navigation?
Thank you so for explaining.
Sure. Or shall I move to coroutines or any other questions?
I don't see any more questions. No, there are no more questions. You can go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so let me talk about coroutines now. Coroutine is something which is extremely important concept. This is not just a part of Android, but it's part of Kotlin. That means if you are creating a server-side programming, the Android app development, or to the place where you use Kotlin, coroutine is supported on multiple platforms. So the same concept applies at most of the places too. Now, what is coroutine? So if you have remembered about threads in your college days, you might hear about these things, thread, process. And if you remember, then there is a notion which says that thread is lightweight. Process is heavyweight, thread is lightweight. But in reality, thread is not that lightweight which is being called upon. The reason why it is called as lightweight, because with respect to process, thread is certainly a lightweight component. But if there is something which is lighter than thread 2, then it's coroutine. When you create a thread, then it's extremely important for you to manage those thread too, because if those threads are not closed properly, then it may end up to the orphan threads, or threads will just keep on taking the resources, where the CPU resource is extremely important. Any thread lost, or the orphan thread where parent thread gets killed and the child thread still remain in memory, these are something which is extremely important to handle. And they are quite complex to handle too as the program goes big. So what's an alternative for thread? Thread is, again, an important concept too, because when you have an activity or the fragment, anything which is dealing with UI, it is dealing on a main thread. Main thread is a place where you show all the UI content. But if you're doing something which is quite heavy work, for example, doing a network call or the heavy processing, then those things should be taken off the foreground thread. Because nowadays on mobile, we have 60 frames per second, 100, 120 frames per second. That means to do its complete action, on an average, you just get a single frame of 16 millisecond. So all the tasks which you are doing to show on UI, it should be done within those 16 milliseconds. But few frames drop is okay. But if there are many frames drop, that's where you see the lags. You might have seen many Android application where they say that it is getting hanged when they come down a particular screen, or when you deal with the graphics. Those hang is nothing but a leak of frame. The designated timeline of 16 milliseconds per frame, it's not able to do its work in that particular designated timeline. And it is skipping lots of frame that a jank is seen on UI. Those things should be handled properly. Because if your app is hanging a lot, then it's an obvious case that the next action which user may take is to drop that app and look for the alternative. So for that particular design pattern, which you want to follow to avoid this thing, is coroutine. With coroutine, you can switch to background thread and come back to foreground thread without much complexity. Now, unlike thread, here you need not to care about starting and closing thread, the orphans thread or the daemon thread. You do not have to care about those things. Rather, you need not to even care about creating threads here, because these are extremely lightweight, and coroutine you can think as if it's a function which gets executed on a particular thread which is in the thread pool. But there isn't a case where you can create new threads too. If you need, you can create new thread. If you do not do anything, then by default, it take care of it with the existing threads in the thread pool. With that, if you want to create a thread, say 1 lakh threads, then just try it out. You see your entire system will hang. Creating thread is very simple. In Java, if you're trying to create thread, you just say new thread, and it just create a thread for you. Put it in a for loop, and let it start from 0 to 1 lakh, and then see what happens to your system. It will literally make your system to hang, or you need to restart your device too. But if you try to do the same thing with coroutines, even 1 lakh or 10 lakhs coroutine, you'll not see a lag in your system. Your system will not hang. And this is the intensity with which you can think how much lightweight it is. Why now you're not seeing a lag? That's because, as I said, coroutine you can correlate with a function. It's just a piece of function which gets executed with the existing thread pools that we have. The best part is that they are suspendable. That means, for example, you have launched a coroutine, and now you have set a delay of 10 seconds. Now, it literally doesn't make any sense to keep it in the process for 10 seconds and then again bring back for the execution in the same thread, because that thread will get occupied for the next 10 seconds as you have set a delay of 10 seconds. That means do not release the thread, but do not do anything too. But by that way, you block the thread. Whereas with suspendable, what it means is that now say you have a thread, that thread is doing your work, but then it come and execute the delay block of 10 seconds. Now what coroutine does is that instead of blocking the thread, it releases it. Let some other work occupy that thread, and it will be in the memory. Once that 10-second is done, it will again fire an alarm that, okay, now my work is done. Someone come and pick this. So a thread will again come and pick this particular coroutine and will execute it. So by this way, it literally doesn't waste the thread. It doesn't make threads to wait. And that makes it way more exciting than using thread for Android, because with Android, as you create application, you'll come to know that it's actually going to be a very large scale code base. You start with a small code base, but eventually it ends up with a very huge code base. So with coroutine, at any point of time, your code will remain manageable. So let me say about how do you start coroutine. So coroutine can be launched with the coroutine builders. You have two widely used coroutine builder, launch and async. Launch is a coroutine builder where the moment you call launch, and inside this, whatever thing which you are going to put, that will execute in a particular thread, which is specified with the dispatcher. But this launch and async, they have a one major difference. Launch doesn't return anything as a result with a particular value. It just return job. So when I say it doesn't return anything, that means any valuable information. For example, I'm doing some sort of operation within the launch, and then I say that I want to return this particular value. Say I'm doing a addition operation and then saying that I want to return the result of this from the launch. Then that's not possible. Launch is like fire and forget. You just start it, let it do all its execution. Once that is done, now it's up to you what action you want to take. What it returns is the job. This job is helpful if you want to cancel this coroutine. And this is really helpful in case of network call. Say you did a network call and then you have moved to the next screen. Now it doesn't make much sense that your last network call remain in the memory. So during those cases, if you don't want that call to succeed, you can call .cancel on the job object. Or the other cases, if you want your execution to stop until and unless the launch complete its work, then you may call .join. So launch is literally useful to create those pieces of information there, to write those pieces of information there which you do not want in a normal execution, but you want this to be off thread. This could either be on the main thread, on the IO thread, or on the default thread. Default and IO, they are the background thread. And main thread is the UI thread. So if you want to update something on UI from the launch, then that should be done with the main thread. So let's see how we can pass those pieces of information. But before that, let me talk about the job, coroutine scope, and dispatcher. So here, as you can see, we have a suspend fun say hello. And then inside this, I just have a launch, which is calling a delay of 1 second. Then you have println world, and then println hello. If I have to say the output of this, then what you're going to say is hello world. Even though world comes first, hello comes next, still you'll see hello world. Why is that? Because we have added an intentional delay of 1 second. But this launch is not something that can be launched directly. They are launched with a coroutine scope. Job, as I said, your launch returns a job, and then async returns a deferred, where it also returns the value. then this launch or async, they have to be called from a coroutine scope. This coroutine scope is really helpful for managing the execution of this coroutine. Then the dispatcher is helpful to take it to which thread you want the execution to done. Default, IO, unconfined, your main thread. This thing is really helpful if you want to switch the context. Now let's see all three of them. In Android, when you try to call launch or async, then you have something called as lifecycle scope. With lifecycle scope, you can directly call .launch. And when you say lifecycle scope, then what it does is that when you kill the activity, that means when you press the device button, activity is destroyed, then it automatically removes this launch or the async call which you have called before. It cancels all of them. And this is done by default for you. So lifecycle scope is a coroutine scope here. As I said, launch or async has to be called from a coroutine scope. So lifecycle scope is providing that. On that, you can call .launch or .async. Async is for asynchronous programming, launch is for the sequential programming. And then as a parameter, you can specify the dispatcher. It could either be dispatcher.main, IO, default, unconfined, whatever you want to specify, you can specify here. As you can see here, I said lifecycle scope.launch dispatcher.io. This means that delay of 1 second and println world. This will be executed in the background thread. Whereas println hello, this line is written outside launch. That means it is written outside the coroutine builder. So that will remain in the foreground thread. That means in the main thread. Eventually, as I said, this launch also returns job. So it's up to you. If you want to do certain thing with the job, you can say val job, you get the job, and then you can say job.cancel, cancel and join, whatever you want, you can do that. If that is not helpful for you, then you can just ignore it. Just call lifecycle scope.launch. Anything is okay. So coroutine is actually a very, very wide topic. What I've covered here is just the basic of it, which you'll see in the code labs. Because if I say more about this, then that's going to be more confusing part here. So on a side note, you can think coroutine as a very lightweight thread kind of concept, where if you want to do certain things in the background thread, use coroutine. When you want to do network call or say adding to the database, reading from the database, do it in the background thread so that your main thread will always remain free. And when it remains free, then you'll not see a drop in the frame. As you do not see the drop in the frame, then you also do not see the system lag. So your app will not hang. But again, do not overuse it. It's just helpful for all those places where you want to do the DB operations, network call, or the heavy computations. At all those places, this is helpful. Now let me talk about connect to the internet. So we have seen the navigation with activities, fragment. We have also seen about the coroutines. And now we'll see about how can you do a network call. So any questions so far on coroutines or the navigations?
I don't see any questions. I think we can move ahead.
Okay, so let me proceed with connectivity. Well, when you want to add an API call, which is very important, and that's something which you'll see across many of the application. Because if you do not have an activity, if you do not have a connectivity with the APIs, then whatever you are shipping with the APK, that's the final product. APIs is really helpful to make your content dynamic. Now, what I mean by this one is, say for example, you have a Gmail app, and every minute, say for example, on every minute you get one email. So if you just launch your Gmail app, you see that if it's a 60 minutes done, and every minute you're getting a mail, you'll see 60 mails. And for this, you're not doing anything. You're just opening your Gmail, you see those 60 mails. And this is possible because of the network connectivity. What it is doing is that as soon as you open the app, it do an API call to fetch the latest information. It figure it out the new mails and show it on the UI. But if you do not have this connectivity, then just imagine of this case where every time Google has to ship the particular app by uploading on the Play Store. And then again, this is targeting many users. It's not just a single or 10 or 20 users. There are billions of users who are using Gmail. So how much difficult it is going to be for Google if they do not use API and rather ship Gmail for every new mails that they get? This is not practical. This is neither practical for Gmail nor practical for any app which is used at a very wide scale. Even Facebook or Instagram, when you open it, when you try to refresh the wall page, you see new feeds there. You see new images if your friends is posting, or comments. You see the notifications. All those things is possible because of the network call. And for this, we do an API call. So let's see what should be the architecture of your app when you want to add a network connectivity and fetch content through API. So on the top, you'll have your activity or fragment. As I said, they are the components. Activity is the Android component. Fragment is the UI piece of code where you can see, show the content there. So either on activity or in the fragment, you can display the content to the user. And that's the place where user interacts too. So for example, you have a Facebook app, and then Facebook app have this activity as a home page. So whatever new messages that you see there, those are all coming in the activity then. In a similar way, you have your app, you have the activity. On that particular activity, you want to fetch from the API call and show the content to the user. That will be there in the activity. But that activity, even though showing the content, will not do the network call on its own. It's not the case that it cannot do. It can do it, but that's really not a recommended approach to do this. We should follow the MVVM architecture. MVVM architecture is model, view, view model. That's the architecture which is followed for the Android applications. Again, there's no hard and fast rule that this is the only architecture for Android apps, but this is the widely used architecture and the one which is recommended by Google. This architecture, what I'm showing right now, is MVVM architecture. Now your view model. On activity, you are showing the UI. View model will act as an intermediary between the place where you're doing network call and to the place where you're showing content to the user. That means you have another component, say a repo. Now this repo is something which is not mandatory to create, but this is really helpful to create repos. And you can create repos for different reasons too, like one repo for network call, one repo for local database call, another repo for some other things. And that's where repo is really helpful rather than putting everything in the view model. So here I've abstracted this to a repo too. Repo is doing a network call, either from the local DB or from the network. That means the API call is going to be done in the repo. Now repo is going to give result back to view model. And then from view model, you'll see the content getting pushed back to the activity or fragment. So initially the control from top to bottom, and result goes from bottom to top. Now how do this is done? How do I'm going to pass data from repo to view model and then from view model to activity? So repo should return a live data object. If you see the documentation, then somewhere you'll see the flow too. So it's either live data or flow. Any one of them is okay. Live data is again a part of a architecture component, and flow is a part of Kotlin flow. So it's sort of the Kotlin feature. Flow is much more powerful than live data. Live data is just for observing the content which is related to UI, but flow can do a lots of things. So from repo, you can return either of this, either live data or flow. And then from view model, on this live data object, you set the observer in the activity or fragment. The best part is that when you use about this live data and you set the observer, where you also specify the activity or the fragment as a parameter there with this, which is nothing but the context. Then say, for example, you did a network call on a particular activity and then you move to the next screen. But by the time you move to the next screen, you haven't get the result from the API. So it doesn't make any sense to again show that particular content to UI on the UI to the user, because user has moved to the next screen. So what live data does is that you did a network call, before getting result, you move to the next screen. Now that live data will keep those information in the memory. And once you are again going back to that particular screen, it will show the result back to the user. So by that way, it keeps the stuff in the memory. If it is, if the screen is visible to the user, it just populate it on UI. Otherwise, it keeps those things up to itself. And one more trait about this view model is that this view model can survive configuration change. So if user did some sort of configuration change, then view model will survive it and it will not have a duplicate network call. But I talked a lot about network call. So how this network call is done? So for that, we have a library. We have this library. Through that, you can do API calls. One of the very widely used library for this one is Retrofit. It's an HTTP client for Android and Java. What do I mean by HTTP client is, if you want to connect to the internet, means if you want to connect to the database, the server, then you need a client which can connect you to the database. You cannot directly get the data from the database without API. So API is that bridge which connects your app with the server. From your app, you do a network call through the HTTP client. Then that will have a connection establishment with the server. Server will in turn give result back to this HTTP client, and then it will give a result back to you in your application. So the process is very straightforward. With Retrofit, you do a network call. That means you do an API call. That API connects to the database, which is with the server. And then through Retrofit, you get the result back to your app too. And then finally, you show the content to the user. The best part again with the Retrofit is that now you need how to create an object. If you see about the Pojo object, then that Pojo object is nothing but say when you do network call about user, you get the user ID, name, age, address. Then you just need to create the model object with an ID, name, age, and address. That's it. The Retrofit will automatically feed in the data for that. How it do all those things? Let's see all those stuffs too. But before that, for your Android app, if you want to add Retrofit, then these are things which you need to add. You need to add the dependencies. So make sure that you have the Maven Central and the Google repository. Google is something which comes by default. If you do not have the Maven Central, then do add those two. And then add this dependency, Retrofit 2.9.0 or whatever is the latest one. Then the converter which I'm showing here is the Moshi converter. but this is not the only converter. We have so many converters. One of the widely used is the JSON2. JSON, MOSI, all these things is really helpful to get the final object. As I said, it's not about the string. You do not get as a raw string. You feed in the object and you automatically get the result feed into the object. That can only and only be done using these converters. For that, you could either use JSON or the MOSI. Both of them is going to give an object to you. Now let's see about the implementation. So Retrofit is an HTTP client, as I said. So before you could use the Retrofit object for performing the network operation, like the post or the get, you need to have an implementation of it done with some sort of parameters. So you call retrofit.builder, and then you add the converter factory. This converter factory is, as I shown before, your JSON, MOSI, and so many others. So whatever converter which you're adding, just add an appropriate converter factory here, .create. That's it. And then the base URL. So what is that base URL? So base URL, say, for example, you have something called as www.google.com/userinfo. And then you have www.google.com/user details. Now user info, user details, they are the endpoints. And this www.google.com, because that's a consistent part across the API call, so that will become the base URL. And then finally just call build. Again, whatever I'm showing here, all of them is available in the code lab. Rather, this is taken from the code lab too. So this is just for making you understand what is Retrofit and how it is working. But if you want to have a hands-on experience, then do try out the code lab, which is again there in the study jam units. So with the Retrofit, the next part is you have an object. Now you also need to define your network operation, the get and post, that you do inside interface. So here you could see interface Mars API service. That eventually have the get API call here, which says get photos. And inside get, means @get, you see the photos. What it's going to do internally is, say for example, your base URL is www.google.com. Eventually it will be something else, but just for dummy purpose, if it is www.google.com, then it's going to add post at the end. So you'll have www.google.com/ as the base URL, and get says photos. So it will automatically append photos at the end of it. And then whatever result it's going to get, as I said, you will not to get a string and then again pass it to make an object. Mars photo is an object. So this API is going to give object rather than the raw string. So now your Retrofit object is ready. In the interface, you have also written the API call which you want to do, either get, post, or both of them, whatever is needed. Eventually, the last piece of information is to create the Retrofit service. That you do by saying Retrofit object, which you have created on top, .create. And inside create, you pass on your interface class, interface : class. So scope resolution operator, you could use it here to specify the class.java. So Retrofit service, the object which you're seeing at the bottom, now using that, you can perform the network call. So it's a 3-step process. First, create the Retrofit object. Second, create interface. Will be specified as a function parameters or the annotations using this interface, where you have to, and then in the repo. This repo is going to give result back to the view model. And it also returns the live data object. So why do we need view model? Why don't repo directly return result back to the activity of fragment? Why do we need this intermediary? as I said, because of the architecture component, we do not do a network call in the activity of fragment. We do it in a repo, and then we have view model as an intermediary. But why it is acting as an intermediary? Why not to have a separate repo class and then do network call there and then in activity directly get the result? Why do we need view model? So view model is very important component of MVVM architecture because the name itself suggests model, view, view model. It's part of lifecycle component. Using view model, when you do any sort of operation inside view model, then it's not going to repeat itself during the configuration change. So if you have an app which is running in the portrait mode and then user takes it to the landscape mode, that's called as configuration change. And when this is done, whatever activities was launched before, it will destroy itself first, and then it will try to create itself once again. But view model can survive this. It will not create a new object once again. That means you can avoid the repetitive heavy work, which could have been done just because of configuration change. Now that will not be done because you put all those things inside view model. And by that way, you save the resource. You save your CPU consumptions because again, it can avoid doing the heavy computation once again. That's why view model is really an important concept there. It's a lifecycle component where it can survive the configuration change. And this is just designed to store the result. It in turn doesn't do anything. But because, as I said, it can survive configuration change, that means it's going to be in the memory for a longer time as it can survive the configuration change. So do not put any view reference in the view model. And what are those view reference? Say, for example, you have a button or text or image or any other view in your activity or fragment. Then do not pass on that view object in the view model directly, because this will result in a memory leak. If user do a configuration change, because now your previous activity view is with the view model, then garbage collector will not able to collect those view, and that will remain in the memory. But your new instance of activity is already been created. That means a new instance of that view is already created. But now you are again keeping the old instance in the memory because of the view model. That's why I never put the view reference in the view model. Whenever you want to update your view, use either flow or live data. They act as an observable component. Whatever changes is done inside view model will be reflected back to the activity or fragment. Then in the activity or fragment, you update your views, but nothing from view model directly. Let's see how does it look like. We have the class overview view model, and this extends view model. Eventually, as I said, you need to return the live data. So status is just an instance of mutable live data. The reason why it is mutable live data is because live data is an object on which you cannot set content. You can only get content from it. So when you want to observe for the changes, you do it on a live data object. But if you want to set something, you can do it only on the mutable live data object, but not on live data, because live data do not support setting. It just have a get instance, but not the set instance. And then at the bottom, you could see that get mask photo. It is doing a network call inside a coroutine. So we have a view model scope, because as I said, all these coroutine builders should have the coroutine scope. That coroutine scope is provided by the view model scope here. It's again from the library, so you need have to create this .launch or .async based on your requirement. You can do that. And then we are seeing the network call there. If there is a case of exception, which is always the case, then have it in the try catch. And then you could see that we are setting the value status.value. So as soon as we say status.value, and then in the activity auth fragment, we set an observer on the status mutable, status live data object. So it will automatically give result back to the activity auth fragment. So it's as simple as just set the value, and in the activity auth fragment, observe the value. How it is transmitted, that you need to take care of it. That is automatically taken care by the library. And these are the few others popular networking library. Coil is extremely helpful if you want to load images. Retrofit client, as I said, it's for the REST client operation. That means if you are dealing with data, then that is helpful. But if you want to load images and show images there, then Coil is something which is very helpful. You can load images dynamically and show it in your app. So if you want to create the next Instagram kind of app where your user could upload images and you want to show images in your app, then Coil is that library which you could certainly use. It will load the image and then it will show to the UI too. Ktor is another REST client from JetBrains. It could be an alternative of Retrofit. So if you don't want to use Retrofit, you want some other libraries, then you can also try out the Ktor client. Ktor have the two implementation where you could create the server-side programming and the client side. Client side is for the Android. So using Ktor client, you can again do the network calls. And now finally, towards the end of session, I'd say that if you want to get started with Android app development, and you want to also learn about the advanced topics, then I have created tutorial videos on my YouTube channel, All Techies. You can check out that channel, or you could subscribe that too, so that as soon as I upload the new content, you will see the notifications and you'll not miss those tutorial videos too. And on this channel, you'll see the topics related to Android, Kotlin, and Firebase. So before I end this, let me also talk about the Firebase, because I'm GD for Firebase too. So Firebase is something which you should not miss out. Being in the college or being in the professional environment too, where you create the production application, Firebase is something which offers you an all-in-one platform. If you want to create the database, add authentication, or you need storage for storing multimedia like audio, video, or any other things, then Firebase is the one-stop solution for you. It have a certain limit for the free category. That means if you want to create your application and take to the world without paying anything for the database, authentications, the Crashlytics, or other things, because Firebase have a host of services, then you could go ahead with the Firebase. Firebase offers those services. And then as you see the traction is gaining, then you could go ahead on a pay-as-you-go plan, and then you could take your user experience to the next level by offering the seamless services for your application. But whenever you create your app, do not forget to add at least the Crashlytics service. Firebase Crashlytics is completely free and free for all. It's not having any sort of limitation based on any categories, because your real testing begins when app goes in production. Crashlytics will give you the information where your app is crashing. And sometimes it also can give you information at what led to the crash. So adding Crashlytics is really an important one. And also, if you need authentication, like Google authentication or the Facebook authentication, or any other like the phone number authentication, then those services is also available, except the phone. Remaining one is free. So Google, Facebook, the social media one especially, or you want to create the new one directly from your application by asking them the username, password, all those things, then those things is again available through Firebase. Also, if you want to join on a group, so it's a Facebook group, and you can join the Android Developers Club. This club I have created on Facebook so that any Android developer worldwide can share their experience, the content, exciting content if they came across, or they can ask questions to any other Android developers. So this group is mainly dedicated to the Android developers. It literally doesn't mean that if you have experience, then only you can join it. If you don't have experience, but you are interested in app development, then you can join this group and learn from others as they post the content. So that's it from my side today. Thank you so much for attending this session, and thank you for inviting me today.
Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you for joining us. And it was nice to hear about everything about coroutines and all the stuff that you taught to all the students. So thanks for sharing your knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pankaj, for such an interactive, informative session. We feel grateful for all the knowledge that you have provided us today. I'm sure we all will bring to great benefit from today's session. To that end, it's my privilege to propose the word of thanks. I extend my gratitude to all the audience for sparing some time out from their busy schedule for attending the session. I express a sincere thanks to Pankaj Rai for giving such an informative and great session. It will be a pleasure to learn more from you. The link for all the social media is pasted in the chat. Thank you from our side.